This podcast is intended for mature audiences and discusses topics that could be triggering to some. Opinions expressed by guests on the show are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of this podcast. I am not a therapist or a doctor. All resources, books, and sources mentioned on the podcast can be found linked in the episode notes. If you or someone you love is being abused, please contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. If you or someone you love is struggling with a suicidal crisis or emotional distress, you can contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline 24/7 at 1-800-273-8255. Some of today's episode involves suicidal ideation or thoughts of suicide. Please take care when listening. Thank you. A few months back, I received a message from Leahness Bouge, a 22-year-old listener of the podcast from Dixon, California. Leah was reaching out because she wondered if I might have any interest into telling her family's story. Leah's dad, Thom Bouge, and his father, Jim Bouge, were survivors of the People's Temple cult. Thom and Jim narrowly escaped the massacre at Jonestown on November 18, 1978, when 918 other people lost their lives in a mass murder at the hands of an evil, gaslighting psychopath named Reverend Jim Jones. I was taken aback at the information and wondered if I was reading her messages correctly. Leah let me know her father was a busy guy, as he's the mayor of Dixon, but she hoped that he would make time to speak with me. She herself wanted to know more about her own father's story. She had heard bits and pieces of her dad's story, and despite his taking part in countless interviews over the past 40 years, her dad Tom's story never really got told. Most of the media wanted only to use Thom as a prop and gain information about the People's Temple leader, the Reverend Jones. I told Leah I was absolutely interested in talking with her dad and hearing his story. She told me the next day that he had agreed. He would let me interview him. I was to send my questions over in advance, and a date for the interview was set. Leah also let me know that though she hoped he would change his mind, her grandpa Jim would not be willing to speak with me. After all, in the past 40 years, he's never taken part in a recorded interview. To prepare for my first meeting with Thom, I arrived with some basic knowledge of the People's Temple and the massacre at Jonestown. However, I more so focused my research and attention on learning what prescriptively makes a cult, how does mind control work, and how does this kind of abuse impact survivors. I didn't want to get lost in the weeds of the story of the evil cult leader Jones, but rather focus my attention on the ways that cult leaders emotionally abuse and manipulate their members in order to control them. I'm Tiffany Reese, and this is Something Was Wrong.
You think you know me, you don't know me well at all. Think you know me, you don't know me well.
This season, I'll be referencing the book Combating Cult Mind Control, written by America's leading cult expert and cult survivor himself, Steven Hassan. You can find his book linked in the episode notes. He writes, "Cults are not new. Throughout history, groups of enthusiasts have sprung up around charismatic leaders of every possible description. But in recent decades, something has been added: the systematic use of modern psychological techniques to reduce a person's will and gain control over their thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Over the past half-century, undue influence has become more of a science. Since World War II, intelligence agencies around the world have been aggressively engaged in mind control research and development. Because of increased media coverage, people in the United States began to become aware of new cults in the middle to late 1970s. Then something happened to change the whole way the nation perceived destructive cults: the massacre at Jonestown. News of the Jonestown massacre shocked the world. In the 1970s, there was little general understanding of unethical mind control or how widespread its use had already become in society at large. In the decades following the massacre, cult groups have continued to grow unabated. New cults appear and older ones grow more sophisticated. Currently, there are groups using mind control in many different areas of society. These organizations include religious cults, political cults, psychotherapy/educational cults, and commercial cults. Religious cults are best known and most notorious. These groups focus on religious dogma. Although most claim to involve the spiritual realm or to follow a strict code of religious principles, it is more common than not for these cult leaders to enjoy a luxurious lifestyle, with the groups owning millions of dollars of real estate and/or extensive business enterprises. Political cults often make the news, usually with the word fringe or extremist attached. These groups are organized around a particular political dogma. Psychotherapy/educational cults hold expensive workshops and seminars that provide participants with, quote, insight and, quote, enlightenment, usually in a hotel conference room. Commercial cults believe in the dogma of greed. They deceive and manipulate people to work for little or no pay in the hope of getting rich. Many such pyramid scheme or multi-level marketing organizations promise big money, but in fact fleece their victims. They also destroy their victims' self-esteem so that they won't complain. Success depends not on selling products or services, but on recruiting new people who in turn recruit others. Pimps and human traffickers run their own versions of commercial cults. While it is important to have a basic understanding of mind control, it is just as important to understand what mind control is not. Unfortunately, in popular discussions on the subject, the term brainwashing is often used as a synonym for mind control or undue influence. On the influence continuum, however, brainwashing belongs closer to the most negative, injurious, and extreme end. Brainwashing is especially effective in producing compliance to demands, such as signing a false confession or denouncing one's government. People are coerced into specific acts for self-preservation. Then, once they have acted, their beliefs change to rationalize what they have done. But these beliefs are usually not well internalized. If and when the prisoner escapes their field of influence, they are usually able to throw off those beliefs. Mind control is much more subtle and sophisticated. The victim typically regards the controllers as friends or peers, so they are much less on guard. They usually unwittingly participate by cooperating with their controllers and by giving them private information that they don't realize will be used against them. The individual is deceived and manipulated, but not directly threatened, into making the prescribed choices. Emotional control, the fourth component of the bite model, attempts to manipulate and narrow the range of a person's feelings. All or nothing. Either you are a wonderful chosen member of the elite, someone really special and loved and part of a wonderful movement, or you're broken, unspiritual, have bad karma, and are guilty and sinful. Guilt comes in many forms. There's historical guilt, for instance, the fact that the United States dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. Identity guilt, a thought such as, I'm not living up to my potential. Guilt over past actions, i.e., I cheated on a test. And social guilt, such as, people are dying of starvation. These can all be exploited by destructive cult leaders. Many members are conditioned to always take the blame so that they respond gratefully whenever a leader points out one of their shortcomings. Loyalty and devotion are the most highly respected emotions of all. Members are not allowed to feel or express negative emotions except towards outsiders. Many groups exercise complete control over interpersonal relationships. Some even tell members whom they can marry and control the entire relationship, including their sex lives. People are often kept off balance, praised one minute, and tongue-lashed the next. Confession of past sins or wrong attitudes is also a powerful device for emotional control. Anything you say can and will be used against you. This device can even extend to blackmail if you leave the cult. Even when it does not, former members are often scared to speak out just in case their embarrassing secrets are made public. The most powerful technique for emotional control is phobia indoctrination. When cult leaders tell the public, members are free to leave anytime they want, the door is open, they give the impression that members have free will and are simply choosing to stay. Actually, members may not have a real choice because they have been indoctrinated to fear the outside world. If a person's emotions are successfully brought under the group's control, their thoughts and behavior will follow. Each component of the BITE model, behavior, information, thought, and emotional control, have great influence on the human mind. Together, they form a totalistic web, one that can be used to manipulate even the most intelligent, creative, ambitious, and strong-willed people. My interview with Thom got rescheduled twice, thanks to flu season. Finally, the day arrived for me to travel to Dixon to meet Mayor and Jonestown escapee, Thom Bouge. I pulled up to a cozy house and got excited when I heard greetings from the Bouge's family dogs, Bella and Batman. The family welcomed me in and we sat down at the kitchen table. Instantly, I was intrigued by Thom's dark sense of humor and his commanding presence. I nervously set up my new equipment and hoped I hadn't forgotten anything. Before I could even turn on the mic, Thom began his own interview. And that's just kind of how Thom rolls. I asked his daughter Leahness to describe him as a person. Here's what she said.
Oh, there's so many words. He talks a lot. My whole day at work is telling him to stop talking to people the entire day. Like, you have one job to do. It takes 30 minutes. And he just talks a lot. Oh, it's all politics. All politics. Okay. He loves politics. Yes. Well, he's also really nice. And so we have a lot of single moms that come to our shop and they come to him for all of their problems. He is definitely a clown. He is always picking on people, giving people a hard time, but it's always in a loving way. One of the things that he puts off is he's not an emotional person, if that makes sense. I'm not even saying he likes to put off a front. He just, how do I word this? It's not, he acts like he could be ruthless. There we go. It's fine. I don't care, but then it's also, he's the kind of guy that brings people into his home and rehabilitates them off drugs. I can't tell you how many people we've had in our house that he was trying to rehabilitate and bring them back to a normal life. He also says, oh, I don't want any dogs, no animals at home. But the reason that he says that is because he gets emotionally attached and he gets very upset when they pass away. So he if that makes sense, he's just very no, 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 no all the time. But it's always for a reason.
I typically imagine cult members to be willing participants in fantastical ideas that resemble fiction. Thom, however, could not be more of a juxtaposition. He hated being in the People's Temple from the very beginning.
We were living in Redwood Valley, and they had, and Jones had started doing the meetings at the Golden Rule in Willits. That's back when he was still speaking from the Bible. And I was always kind of a wild child, so to speak, into mischief all the time. So even from a young age, I was into trouble a lot, doing things that the People's Temple felt I shouldn't be doing. So that's the way most of my life went. I was always in trouble, always in trouble. So, and because of that, I never got sucked into the words that were coming out of Jones's mouth.
Because you already hated it.
I already hated it.
And you were already not here for it, kind of a thing.
Correct. And I was already starting to run away at the age of 9. We used to, at that point, we were doing the cross-country bus trips, and the bus trips of going to San Francisco every week. We'd stop in San Francisco, and then we'd go on to L.A. for the other meetings. So at the age of 9, they pulled up at a rest stop. And I don't know why, but on that bus, I just started putting together this plan, okay, at 9 years of age. And I had a box of food there because we were just coming back from someplace. And we would always stop at this rest stop. So we went to stop. It was kind of I'd say an early fall or late spring. I don't remember exactly what time of year. And so when I got off with my sleeping bag wrapped around me, and I had my box of food inside the sleeping bag. So it's like, so that nobody could really see I was carrying this box of food. And while we were there, I'd actually gone off into these bushes and hid and watched the buses pull away. Nobody had noticed I was missing. But it was hard to notice somebody missing because the buses were so packed with people. I mean, there's people not only in the chairs, that'd be 3 deep in a 2-chair situation, to sitting in between the seats. There was these boards you'd stick between the seat, and that'd become like a bench-like seat you would sit on for hours. People sleeping in the luggage compartments above, down below. I mean, these buses were packed. So if somebody came up missing, nobody would notice until they got to their destination. And now the person they're supposed to be with us says, hey, at that point, it's like, where's Tommy Bouge? I don't know. And it actually took them a few hours to realize I was truly gone. So after they had pulled off, I'd climbed up on top of the rest stop, the bathroom area, and I was camping out up there.
How did you feel?
I felt great.
You felt free?
I felt free. Oh, yeah.
You're like, okay, this is it. I'm on my own now.
Yep.
But that seemed better than staying.
Oh, absolutely.
That speaks volumes.
Absolutely. And after being there for a few days, I guess one of the maintenance workers had realized that there was somebody up on the roof and had called it in. I ended up they picked me up. I spent the night in some church in Modesto, I think. And then they sent me to my aunt's in San Francisco. And I didn't want to go back then. My aunt and uncle said I could stay with them.
They knew that you were in a cult?
Oh, yeah, I told them what was going on. Oh, yeah, they knew we were in a cult at that point. So anyway, my mom ended up picking me up, taking me back. Off that incident, I was sent to go stay with another family who felt they could
in the People's Temple?
Yes.
That could whip you into shape?
Yes. Quite literally. Yes. The rubber hose is the whole bit. Ugh. And which really just drummed up more hatred.
Of course.
More desire to get away.
Yeah.
And really what it came down to, because as I get older, I reflect upon, things I was thinking, why I took different actions that I took and everything else. And back at that age, really what it boiled down to, because, part of it says, well, as a 9-year-old child or even a 12-year-old child, which was the second time, how does a child make a decision to run away with actual intent to never come back, to leave their family behind, everybody they know behind, their security, and the entire time gone, just trying to think of ways to get further away. Never the thought of, oh, shoot, there's no food, I'm hungry. Oh, I want to go home. Like you hear about runaways doing, right?
Right.
And no.
There's no comfort to run to.
There's no comfort to run to. So
being on your own was more comforting.
By far.
Because that takes a lot of guts. Because I'm sure you knew the repercussions would be severe.
Well, that was the weird thing about me as a kid.
You just kept it moving.
I never learned. So to me, I never even gave the repercussions a second thought so much as a first thought. It was just always the desire to do something else.
Fight or flight.
Yes.
Flight.
And that's really what it boiled back down to as a 9-year-old child. It was just a strong survival instinct.
Thom and I spoke for a few more hours that first meeting. He told me about his childhood in the People's Temple, the unspeakable abuse he encountered, and his ultimate escape from the jungle. He had to run to another commitment after a few hours, and as I drove home, I was dumbstruck with the information I was still digesting. Later on that night, I received a text from Leah letting me know that her dad had enjoyed talking with me and found it refreshing that I wanted to know about his story and his feelings instead of solely seeking gruesome details and salacious information about the cult's leader, Jones. Thom agreed to let me interview him again. The week between my first and second interview with Thom, I dove deep into the People's Temple history and their timeline of events in order to help myself better understand Thom's own history and experience. I researched coverage of the temple and found numerous recommendations to read the book Raven, the untold story of Reverend Jim Jones and his people. When the large book arrived, I was shocked to see the Bouges listed in the first few pages as principal members of the People's Temple, and the author of the book, Tim Reiterman, had himself survived Jonestown. Once I began reading Raven, I realized that Thom and the author Tim would later become important pieces in one another's stories. You see, reporter Tim Reiterman was one of the first in the San Francisco Bay Area to investigate the People's Temple, over 2 years prior to the massacre at Jonestown. Throughout this season, I'll be reading excerpts and sharing information of the Bouges family story with the help of Tim Reiterman's book, Raven, the Untold Story of Reverend Jim Jones and His People, which will also be linked in the episode notes. As I dove deeper into reading, it became clear that the complete story of the People's Temple and its evil leader Jones was a complex one. Thankfully, I continued to remind myself that I only needed to focus my true attention on Thom's unique experience in the People's Temple. The following Sunday, as I made the 45-minute drive from my own house to Dixon, I texted Leah to ask her or Thom if they wanted anything from Dutch Bros Coffee. She let me know they were covered, but that her grandpa, Jim Bouge, principal member of the People's Temple for 13 years, had agreed, for the first time in 40 years, to be interviewed. By me. I made a strange noise and tried not to let my anxiety get the best of me, though a light anxiety sweat started to form on my forehead almost instantly. Upon arrival at the Bouge home, I was once again greeted by the barking of Bella and Batman. Again, I anxiously set up my equipment and tried to seem casual and like I knew what I was doing. I hugged Grandpa Jim Bouge and was instantly in love with the cardigan he was wearing. I thanked him for allowing me to interview him, and Thom made a joke about how lucky I was.
Oh, by the way, you'll be the first person to ever have recorded an interview with him.
Yeah, I'm sweating.
You should be.
Okay. I asked Grandpa Jim what initially drew him to attend the People's Temple Church.
See, the whole thing started, I'd lost a son.
So sorry.
And I was searching for answers. When he came to town and started organizing, I'll go check him out, see, maybe he does know something.
Thom's father, Jim Bouge, had started attending the People's Temple Church in Redwood Valley, California, around 1965, when the group was meeting at the Golden Rule Church in Willits, California. Quickly, though, the family learned that leaving the People's Temple would not be easy as one would imagine. Jones blackmailed church attendees by having them sign blank pieces of paper telling them that they were for a reasonable purpose, when in fact they would be later turned into letters confessing falsely to horrible crimes such as molesting their own children. Here's Thom.
My mother didn't want to leave at the time, so he was going to take the kids and leave. And then when the church found out about it, they have all kinds of mechanisms in place to keep a person from leaving. It would be everything from, like on a Wednesday night, which was just a prime membership, everybody in there had to sign a blank piece of paper, even the children. And that was for, then they would say things, well, what this is for is so we have to send letters to our political leaders and everything else. We don't have to wait for you guys to come in and sign it. Just sign the blank paper. That way we do these letters and send them out. It turned out that was not the reason. The reason is so if people wanted to defect, they would fill out these forms, give written testimony to grievous criminal acts that they supposedly committed. And then what they would do is the person who was going to leave, they say, oh yeah? Well, you know what? If you leave, we're going to have to turn this in for prosecution. And then they read it and they're like, what the hell? That never happened. It did now. You signed it. That's what happened to my father.
Here's Jim.
Well, I went about 3 times, maybe half a dozen times, and I decided I didn't want any of it. And the next thing I know, one of the guys came down and he said, you know, you can't leave. I was, how's that? Well, we just figured out you molested 3 of your daughters.
This was after how many visits?
about a half a dozen visits. And so from then on, I kind of became a good little doggy. I mean, you just don't beat that. There's no way you can beat that.
As many cult leaders and abusers do, the Reverend Jones worked to alienate his members from as many of their loved ones as possible, as quickly as possible. He did this by separating members from their spouses. After attending the People's Temple for some time, Jones began separating Jim Bouge from his family, especially his wife, Edith. And what did your wife think? Your wife at the time?
Edith.
Edith,
yeah. And they took her in, and she turned against me. They like to break up families. That's one of his great things, was to break up families, and then he could control better.
In addition to the letters he created as blackmail, Jones used various other tactics to control members' behavior, such as putting them in illegal situations, forcing members to take the blame, then using the incident as blackmail for further control. Next time.
You think you know me, you don't know me well at all. You think you know me, you don't know me well.
Something Was Wrong is written, recorded, edited, and produced by me, Tiffany Reese. If you'd like to help support the growth of Something Was Wrong, you can help by leaving a 5-star review on iTunes, sharing the podcast on social media, signing up to support on patreon.com, supporting our sponsors, or simply telling your friends, or your family, or your teacher, or your therapist, librarian, mail person, Valentine, football coach, barista, bartender, barber, Girl Scout troop leader, your life coach, your sponsor. Okay, you get the point.
They think they know me, they don't know me well. You know me, you don't know me well at all. Think you know me, you don't know me well. You think you know me, you don't know me well at all.
With Metro by T-Mobile, your hard-earned money goes further. This tax season, there's 0 fees to switch. Enjoy Metro's lowest price, just $25 a line for 4 lines. Plus, get 4 free Samsung Galaxy phones when you switch. Now that's the best deal in wireless. Metro by T-Mobile, empowering you to rule your day. All lines lose promo rate if any deactivates. No fees on select phones. Limit 1 per line with eligible port. Excludes sales tax. Limited time offer. Additional terms apply. See metrobytmobile.com.